Good evening and welcome to the January 11th, 2020 episode of Rant-Om Thoughts, the series. This is my official membership in the Libertarian Party. It is the fastest growing alternative political party in the United States. Actually, I would call it the second party because there is no more two-party system. What we have now is in control is the Caucistocratic Party. It's just one party that is corrupt, incompetent, and tyrannical, with two cliques pretending to be two competing political parties, yet they serve the same agenda and the same masters. A little bit of background. Shortly after my 18th birthday in the summer of 1995, I was at the store. In front of the supermarket was a gentleman collecting signatures and registering voters. So I registered Republican and then signed those petitions. I became a registered Republican because I had remembered Ronald Reagan's leadership in the Cold War. My grandmother, she was a Republican. I had always associated it with opposition to communism, freedom, fighting for freedom, low taxes. I genuinely believed that they were the good guys. My disillusionment started in the late 90s when I noticed how the local party establishment would treat conservative candidates in primaries. There was even one year, 1998, when a bunch of the Republican Party leaders actually convinced a couple of men to not run against the Democrat incumbent politician Gary Condit. And and Gary Condit, of course, he got removed a few years later. But at the same time, I was getting into conspiracy research. I was learning more about globalism, the New World Order, the Council on Foreign Relations, the Bilderberg Group, the Trilateral Commission. This network called Organized Evil, which has as its goal the creation of a one-world totalitarian government, and they controlled both the Democrat and Republican parties. In 2000, rather than vote for the preferred establishment candidate, George W. Bush, I voted for Howard Phillips of the Constitution Party, because he was the candidate and that was the party that was the closest to my thinking at the time. I was aware of the Libertarian Party since '96, but the Constitution Party offered a better platform, I thought, at that time. So I voted for Howard Phillips in 2000, and I voted for Michael Perutka in 2004. But I remained a registered Republican because I wanted to support conservative candidates and causes in primaries at the local level. Fast forward to 2008. Ron Paul, who gained a lot of interest from people after his appearance in the documentary America, Freedom to Fascism, who was the 1988 presidential candidate of the Libertarian Party, but returned to the Republican Party in the 90s to become a congressman. He threw his hat in for the presidential nomination of the Republican Party. And he, to me, he will always be the greatest, statesman of this age because of his opposition to the Iraq War and his opposition to the expansions of the police state, and how he not only correctly identified the problems that our economy faced, but he actually offered a real solution, which was the gold standard and ending the Federal Reserve System. Well, he ran in 2008, and he ran in 2012. And instead of nominating, Ron Paul, what did the Republican Party do? They rejected him in favor of the preferred establishment choice. In 2008, it was John McCain, and in 2012, it was Mitt Romney. After that, I bolted the Republican Party. I affiliated myself more closely with the Constitution Party. That was until around 2015 when Rand Paul declared his candidacy. He had Ron Paul's son, had taken up the baton, and things were looking good at first. 2016 was going to be our year. The year that we took back America. The year we ended the 100-year progressive nightmare. The year we stood athwart the New World Order conspiracy and shouted, "Stop!" But that didn't happen. What happened was some mobbed up, crooked real estate developer from New York who owes his fortune mostly to eminent domain abuse. This man who was a close friend of the Clintons, Bill Clinton's golfing partner, both of them partied at Jeff Epstein's island. Donald J. Trump, after paying off a bunch of pundits in both talk radio and the blogosphere to spread this garbage narrative of him being this right populist superhero who was going to take on the deep state, got in everybody's way, prevented Rand Paul from getting the nomination, And his mission was to throw the election to the Clintons and help them win. Instead, what happened? Even despite Trump's best efforts to lose, by appealing to some of the baser elements of American society, the Clintons waged an even lousier campaign. Yeah. You know, it's probably the first time organized evil tried to rig an election and lost. It was like the plot of that Mel Brooks movie, The Producers, where Springtime for Hitler, which was supposed to have been a dud and a tax write-off for the two protagonists, turned out to be an enormous hit at the box office. Well, organized evil is getting what they want anyway. More war in the Middle East. And the economic bubble, it's gonna burst pretty soon. And the organized evil's press organs are going to blame the political right for that because it happened on Donald Trump's watch. Anyway, after the 2016 election, I found myself politically homeless. The Constitution Party collapsed, imploded, tore itself apart due to factionalism, state affiliates breaking off from the national Constitution Party organization, lawfare. And it's really sad too, because Howard Phillips, he started something really wonderful there. At the same time, I was hearing about the Mises Caucus in the Libertarian Party, led by Joshua Smith, Michael Heise, Tom Woods, Dave Smith, Peter Horton. Ludwig von Mises, for whom the Mises Caucus was named as one of the great thinkers of the 20th century. He was an influence on Ron Paul and is an influence on anyone influenced by Ron Paul. Anyway, the Mises Caucus was started to help bring the Ron Paul revolution to its new political home, the Libertarian Party, while at the same time wresting control of the Libertarian Party from a faction that we call the Cosmotarians. These people who think that the Libertarian Party's priorities should only be gay marriage and open borders. And that's it. The Mises Caucus believes that a true opposition party should have as its priorities ending the war, ending the Federal Reserve System, shrinking the government back to its constitutionally authorized size. That was the team I decided to join. In 2018, I registered Libertarian. 2019, I made it official. I paid my annual due, got this card. They endorsed a candidate, Jacob Hornberger. who has been educating people about the high ideals of liberty for decades. I am very excited. I am very enthused. This is the start of something very big. Very, very big. Now, a question I'm sure I'm going to be asked, and I'm going to answer this in advance, is, does this mean you're turning your back on what you've previously believed on certain issues? Not at all. It's still my belief that the traditional family is the basic building block of our society. But I also believe that the best way to strengthen those families and to foster their growth is to get rid of the income tax so that those families will have more take-home pay. Dad will have more take-home pay to provide for his family more adequately, and mom won't have to work outside of the home if she doesn't want to. It would mean an end to a welfare state and a public education system that has done nothing but undermine the solidarity of American families. So yes, the libertarian program will strengthen the family, will foster the growth of the family, will promote strong families, and will do so much better than authoritarian theocrats of the Rick Santorum, Mike Huckabee persuasion, whose solution to every problem is to just use the power of the state to reorder everybody else's lives to their liking. Which, by the way, is no different to my way of thinking from, LBGT activists using the power of the state via the courts as a cudgel to bully and coerce people into supporting their lifestyle choices. No different at all. Also, I am still very pro-life. Now, the official Libertarian Party's position on abortion is vague, but there is a pro-life caucus that is growing in numbers and influence, and it is a microcosm of the growth of the pro-life movement in its influence and numbers nationwide, across the board. You'll hear the phrase NAP, non-aggression principle, tossed around quite a bit. Well, you can't really think of a bigger violation than that than killing an unborn child, or euthanizing an elderly or disabled person without their consent. I mean, even though my views regarding abortion are informed by religious belief, even if I did come from a godless secular background, I think I would still be pro-life. I mean, instinctively, I've always known that was wrong. So, there you have it. Looking forward to voting gold. No more red, no more blue. Voting gold. And voting for Goldberger, or maybe Justin Amash. There are still some whispers he might throw his hat in the ring. I would gladly vote for him as well if he got the Libertarian Party nomination. But yeah, I'm voting gold, and I am looking forward to a brighter, happier future for this country as the Libertarian Party, under the leadership of the Mises Caucus, grows in its numbers and its influence, and maybe someday taking Congress or the White House and putting an end to a century of interventionist foreign policy and welfare statism, and a return to genuine American freedom. The other night, I saw the latest Star Wars movie, the last, they say, Star Wars movie, The Rise of Skywalker. It wasn't as bad as some of the critics say it is. I mean, there were a few things they could have done better. Would have liked to have seen more exposition regarding how the Emperor, survived being thrown into a reactor core and then getting blown up. But but it was also a treat seeing a lot of seeing some of the cameos and Easter eggs here and there. Now, one last thing before we sign off. Neil Peart, rest in peace. And remember, think while it's still legal. Charles Bird signing off.